"You old mop jockey, get that spit off the floor before my boots stain." The laughter ripples down the corridor, and the janitor does not flinch. He bends, presses the cloth, and works with a quiet, practiced care. Arthur Blake, 83, moves with the slow economy of someone who has kept too many places in order. The academy knows him by his gray cap and worn cardigan. None of the cadets call him sir. He wipes the brass at the memorial, and his fingers trace names the cadets never learned. The plaque sits matte under his thumb, and the letters are sharp. He tightens the screws until the plate is true. A cadet drops a paper cup and kicks it under a bench, smirking as he walks on. Arthur stoops, and the cadet throws a word meant to bruise. Arthur answers with a single nod and the clean sweep of his broom. The corridor smells of polish and rain. Windows cast a strip of daylight across marching boots and belts. A drill sergeant calls cadence, and the sound sits at the edge of his hearing. He pushes his trolley like a companion, not a tool. Trays of fluid and a folded towel in place. Cadets pass without a glance, and their conversations are quick. Arthur keeps to his route as if it were a map. A poster about inspection hangs at the staff notice board, its corners yellowed. Arthur reads the date and adjusts his plan so the hall will be ready. Rhythm guides him as much as habit. In the records room, he slides a frayed photograph into a ledger for safekeeping. The image shows a man in uniform with medals pinned unevenly. Only the edge of the face is clear, but it feels familiar in the way old things feel. Michael Reeves, 23, pauses in the doorway and watches Arthur work. He tilts his head as if listening to a distant sound. Michael looks curious while others snort and turn away. Arthur hums a tune that might be a march, his hands keeping the tempo. He polishes the bench until the wood reflects a pale, patient face. There is a neatness to each movement that reads like training. A cadet jostles another, and someone calls out a careless jest about the old man. The jest slides past Arthur, as if over glass. He does not look back, but his shoulders tighten, like those of an old soldier. In the staff room, a commander reads a list and mentions standards. The word hangs thin in the air, and the janitor answers it with work not ceremony. People who keep places clean often hold things together. Why does the academy dismiss the small acts that make everything possible? Michael slips into the archive with the kind of hesitation that breaks trivial rules. He lifts a ledger, and a brittle photograph slips free, catching the light. The man in the photograph stands with a squad, medals bright, jaw set. Michael keeps the photograph hidden and watches Arthur from the doorway. The old man moves among the rows, his back straight, even when his hands show a long life. There is a pause where two habits meet and do not yet know each other. A training drill begins, and the cadets fold into formation with loud precision. Instructors call commands, and the yard hums with order. Arthur continues inside, and his eyes flick to the windows. An officer dismisses the photograph as a relic, but Michael feels its weight in his pocket. He tucks the image away as if it might break. The curiosity does not yet have a shape. Arthur mutters under his breath as he lifts a chair, and the sound is small and private. Dust rises for a second in the light, and then settles again. He tucks the towel into his belt and straightens the edge of the flag with deliberate hands. Outside the gates, the town goes about ordinary business. The academy remains a narrow world with rules of its own. Those who sweep its floors rarely make headlines. A cadet trips in mockery, and laughter lands like a stone. Arthur cleans the spill without haste, and the laughter loses its edge in the size of his movements. He is steady, and his steadiness becomes a kind of answer. What does quiet courage ask of those who watch it? A group captain passes the main door and pauses so his gaze can settle on the hall. He gives a brief nod, part habit, part recognition. The nod would be missed by most. Michael slips from the doorway and finds Arthur wiping the plaque again, the cloth on names. He clears his throat and offers a stiff greeting that leans toward respect. Arthur looks up and measures him without surprise. The exchange is spare, ordinary words that reveal little. Michael asks about the photograph, and Arthur tightens his grip on the cloth. He answers with a single line that makes Michael hear a different note. Is a man defined by the uniform he wore once, or by the work he chooses now? Morning inspection day arrives under a hard gray sky. The parade ground smells of polish and wet concrete. Cadets move fast, shoes clicking like metronomes against the stone. Arthur pushes his trolley into the grand hall. His breath catches faintly, but his pace never breaks. He wipes each brass crest until it holds the light like a mirror. Michael watches from across the floor as the others whisper and grin. Someone murmurs that the janitor takes more pride than any officer. The remark earns laughter and a quick shove to keep the rhythm of disdain. The doors open with a crisp command. General Rowe enters. Medals aligned like punctuation. The hall stills. A breath hangs. Arthur stands back as the general walks the aisle, his gaze sliding across spotless tiles. The silence deepens when he stops, boots glinting against the clean floor. He gives one slow nod. No reprimand follows, just approval. Michael catches it. So does no one else. The sound of laughter dies in the edges of memory. The general's salute is almost invisible, a flicker of acknowledgement to the old man by the wall. Why would a general salute a cleaner? After the inspection, Michael lingers near the janitor's trolley. Arthur folds a rag and sets it aside. He doesn't speak first. Michael finally asks the question he's carried for days. The old man answers with an even tone. Some ranks aren't written on shoulders, lad. Some are carried in silence. The words settle like dust, unnoticed by others but bright in Michael's chest. That night he searches the academy archive, fingers brushing spines of old ledgers. He finds a file stamped classified. Captain A. Blake, 1954. Missing in action. He reads the report in the thin light of a desk lamp. The man once led a rescue mission behind enemy lines. Last seen carrying wounded men out of a burning trench. The file ends in silence. What happens to a soldier when war ends, but the duty remains? The next morning, the commander, Colonel Huxley, catches Michael slipping the folder back, a hard gaze, a warning about rumors. The young cadet salutes and says nothing. The name lingers anyway. Arthur arrives before dawn the following day, mop swinging with quiet rhythm. He hums a tune half forgotten, half remembered. The hallway glows under his effort. By noon, training begins. Simulated attack drill. Alarms shriek. Red lights flash. Cadets scramble. Some laugh. Others panic. The commander tests their composure with chaos. Arthur stops mid-corridor. His eyes sharpen as if time folds. He grabs a whistle left from maintenance gear and blows once, sharp. Voices halt on instinct. He issues quick orders. Secure the exits. Move the injured. Keep formation low. The words fall with authority that overrides the confusion. Cadets obey before thinking. The commander freezes at the sight. Arthur's hands move as if holding a weapon unseen. Every motion is memory. The room becomes a field again. Only the air smells of polish instead of smoke. When the drill ends, silence lands heavy. The old man stands where the alarm began. The cadets look at him with something like awe. One murmurs. He knew what to do before anyone else did. In the staff room later, Huxley leans forward, his tone clipped. You broke procedure, Mr. Blake. You took command without permission. Arthur answers softly. Habit dies slow, sir. The commander's jaw sets. You're dismissed from service as of today. Leave your keys at the gate. Michael steps forward from the line outside the door. Sir, that man just saved the academy's reputation. The words tremble, but hold. Huxley ignores him. Orders are orders. The young cadets glance between them, unsure where respect belongs. Arthur removes his cap, places it on the table, and leaves without a word. Sometimes the quietest exit is the loudest statement. He walks across the empty yard, the sound of his shoes against gravel echoing like parade drums. Michael follows at a distance, torn between salute and apology. The old man does not look back. Night comes heavy over the academy. Rain falls thin and steady. Michael stands at the memorial where Arthur once worked and wipes a single name clean. Captain A. Blake, before anyone can see him do it. Will honor survive where pride has already failed? The next day, word spreads among cadets. Some defend the commander's decision, others whisper dissent. The story grows with every retelling until no one knows which version is true. In the dormitory, Michael sits alone polishing his boots, his reflection small and sharp. The photograph of the young captain rests beside him. He studies the face, then folds the image back into his pocket with care. Outside, Arthur packs his belongings into a small canvas bag, a few cloths, an old uniform folded once and then again. He glances at the parade ground through the window. Empty now, but the echoes remain. His hands pause at the badge pinned inside his cap. He touches it lightly. Then he sets the cap down and walks away. What becomes of duty when the world stops saluting it? At the edge of the academy gates, Arthur stops to fix a crooked signpost. The gesture is small, absurd, necessary. Then he steps through and the wind closes the door behind him. Michael stands inside the gates, watching, a question forming that will not let him rest. He knows he will not forget the way an old man carried dignity without permission. If you've followed the story so far, stay until the end. The final moment changes what you thought you knew about them both. The graduation morning rises calm and silver. Flags lift faintly in the soft wind above the academy courtyard. Rows of cadets stand in formation, uniforms immaculate, expressions carved from discipline. Michael breathes in slow, the weight of the parade cap pressing against his brow. His eyes wander to the empty edge of the courtyard, where a familiar trolley once stood. The space feels wider now, quieter. The band begins to play a solemn march. Colonel Huxley watches from the platform, posture perfect, medals flashing with each breath of light. His jaw remains hard, yet something beneath it seems unsettled. At the far edge, beyond the fence, Arthur stands among the townsfolk, plain clothes, old coat, walking stick in hand. His gaze does not linger on any one cadet, only the flag that rises, inch by inch, under the morning sun. The parade proceeds with rehearsed precision. Commands echo crisp and sure. Michael leads his platoon past the dais, boots aligned to perfection. His thoughts beat slower than the drums. Halfway across the yard, he halts. Silence floods the space before the echo of his step even fades. The line behind him falters. Then he turns toward the fence and raises his hand in a single, deliberate salute. The gesture freezes time. Every cadet stills, unsure, suspended between protocol and conscience. Then one follows, then another. Within seconds, an entire company stands at salute, facing not the commander, but the old man beyond the gate. Arthur's chin dips slightly. His eyes glimmer once. No more. The wind carries the faintest sound of his breath. Maybe a sigh, maybe a prayer. For a long moment, no one moves. Then Huxley's voice cuts through, lower, less certain. Carry on. But the command sounds hollow in the space where respect has already spoken. When the ceremony ends, the cadets disperse in silence. Michael remains by the flagpole. The commander approaches, each step careful. He holds something in his hand, a small envelope sealed with the academy crest. "This belongs to you," Huxley says quietly. "It was left on my desk, inside." Michael finds a letter written in a strong, uneven hand. "Duty doesn't end when uniform does. Keep it clean, lad. The holes, the hearts, all of it. A. B." The handwriting is firm, but trembles at the edges. Michael folds the paper and slips it into his pocket, like a medal he's not yet earned. He looks toward the gate, but Arthur is gone. Only the empty road and the sound of the flag rope striking the pole remain. What is remembered when the man himself disappears? Days pass. The academy returns to its rhythm, drills, reports, inspections. Yet something has shifted in its pulse. Cadets now clean their own halls, benches gleam. The brass on the memorial shines without instruction. In the commander's office, Huxley stares at a different envelope. It bears the old seal of the Royal Regiment and his own name in faded ink. He breaks it open with slow fingers. Inside lies a citation. For gallantry in the line of duty, Captain Arthur Blake, 1954. Pinned beside it is a yellowed photograph. Two men in uniform, younger, standing in mud and smoke. One is Huxley, the other Arthur. On the back, written in block letters, "For your son, when he asks what honor looks like." Huxley sits back, eyes unfocused. The office hums with silence. Outside, rain begins again, soft against the glass. How many debts are owed, not in medals, but in memory? That evening, Michael walks the length of the hall where the janitor once worked. He stops at the small locker room near the boiler. Inside, a single locker door stands ajar. Within, folded with exact care, rests an old military uniform, pressed and ready. A set of boots gleams beneath, laces tied, spotless. On the top shelf, a note. Duty never retires. Michael reads the words aloud. They sound like both promise and farewell. He stands a moment longer before closing the locker gently. The click of the latch final, but not cold. Outside, the academy lights glow along the corridors like lines drawn in respect. The echo of footsteps, his own now, replaces the old rhythm. The place feels watched over, somehow still kept. He joins his fellow cadets in the courtyard. Their conversations are softer these days, their laughter less sharp. The name Arthur Blake has become something you say quietly, like prayer or truth. Weeks later, a small brass plaque appears beside the memorial. It bears no title, no rank, only a line. He kept the academy clean, and its honor clearer. No one admits to installing it, yet no one removes it either. At dusk, when the courtyard empties, Michael often sits near the plaque, listening to the wind that threads between the walls. Sometimes it sounds like a broom sweeping faintly across the stones. Perhaps it's only memory. Perhaps it's something else. He straightens, salutes once more toward the silent hall, and walks away, boots steady, heart quiet. Because some heroes do not march, they simply keep things shining. If you've stayed till now, take a breath before you scroll away. Somewhere, there's an Arthur Blake in your world too, still keeping it clean, still holding it together. Don't wait until the silence to notice him. Thank you so much for spending your time with this story today. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a quiet moment too. Every bit of support helps us keep telling these small, human stories that matter. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below and join the discussion. Your words always mean more than you know. See you in the next story, and I wish you all the best until then. Take care and stay kind.